No, the slide. The grade up slides. Yes. Thank you very much. Welcome to the session. My name is Eric Agri from TLM Ghana Limited. We are the educational engineers. Throughout this presentation, you have seen that there are a lot of innovations going on. You engineers are doing great work, but there's one engineering aspect that we are focusing on that we think we haven't seen much. Can you go to? Oh, all right. Thank you. All right. So, welcome to educational engineering. What you can see. All right. All right. Okay, go back. Go back one slide. Okay. Yes, what you can see, the difference between these two pictures you see here is they are no different. These are educational setups in our current classroom setups, and then a classroom setup 100 years ago. We have seen that there's no much engineering going on here. They are all the same. And we think that school also needs re-engineering. So what we have done is to use educative cartoons, smart books, and then quiz games to help our children understand the school's lessons easily and better, so that when we are no longer there, they can take up our positions and do a better work. So I wanted to explain, but let this 15 seconds video explain to you how it looks like. So can you add the sound, please?
Grade up. First of all, I can read interactive ebook or
the human body
listen. The
contains a
ebook.
whole
There is an educative cartoon for every lesson. Now to my favorite part. I play quiz games. Energy checking. Wow, guys, I'm so smart. Grade up. Learning is easy and fun.
All right, so this is how it works. This is based 100% on the GES syllabus. The same lessons treated in school, we do it here. And what we also do is if you have your own content, whether for engineering or for whatever, we can also turn it into electronic learning contents, which can be used on laptops, tablets, or online. And we are not leaving anybody behind. Through our Netherlands friends, we have been able to donate free tablets, 90 of them, to 3 deprived schools who scored 0% in the BEC exams to be used for classroom education for free. So these are the pictures we took during the launch. We did this, and we are hoping that this can come. So this is what we have done. When we get a profit, we put it back into our deprived children because we believe that nobody should be left behind. So you can buy it for schools or for your child at home. And if you also have any content on books, you can turn it into electronic teaching and learning materials for you. So we are here, we urge you to either buy for your child or buy it as corporate social responsibilities to assist our deprived children. Thank you. Yes, so this is currently the tablet. We have 6-inch and then 10-inch. This is the 6-inch, and then we have the 10-inch. The 6-inch is going for 600 Ghana cedis per one if you are buying individually, and the 10-inch is going for 800 Ghana cedis. But if you are buying for a school, like, the price comes down astronomically. Yes, so.
It will come down by e raised to the power x.
Hopefully. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. The last but one slide said, leave no one behind. Well, that is what he's saying, but just to alert us that last week Friday, in fact, the 22nd of March every year, is celebrated as World Water Day, March 22nd every year. And the theme for the celebration for World Water Day this year was Leave No One Behind. We are putting in the efforts, the presentation that CWSA made, together with what GWCL is doing with the Water Resources Commission. Our focus is that by 2025, everybody in Ghana must have access to good and safe drinking water. So the efforts, safe water, that was for the World Water Day celebration. And for those who don't know, November 19 every year is also World Toilet Day. I'm sure we don't know. There's also World Toilet Day. I don't know why International Women's Day is 8th of March. And International Men's Day was put on 19th November, same as World Toilet Day. We don't know what kind of conspiracy made the people decide that World Toilet Day and International Men's Day should fall on the same day. But so we'll take it that way. And then, yeah. So what we do as some of the things that we do, somebody said, we are talking about innovations. Every year, we have these days which come up, which we celebrate for the various, whatever we do as engineering. For us, my president and my executive director in the same field, we celebrate World Water Day, Global Hand Washing Day, October 15th, World Environment Day, June 6th, my favorite World Toilet Day, November 19th, and then the one which I like most, International Menstrual Hygiene Day. That is on May 28th, every year. How was the day selected? 28.5. The average of a woman's period is 5 days. And the duration between one period to the next is 28 days. Based on that, 28.5. 28th May every year. No, it's not my fault. I have 4 teenage daughters, 13 to 20, so it's not my fault. I'm deep in the middle of it. And that's the work I do. There's an international menstrual hygiene platform of which I am a member. And we take it for granted. But we are told that there are 13,000 basic schools in Ghana which do not have toilets. This is not a scientific research. But in JHS, if you go to a school and there's no toilet, the girls do not go to school. Because if you bleed and you have to change, and there's nowhere to change, it is such a problem. And for men among us, it is so humiliating if you're a woman and you happen to have soiled yourself. All of us have mothers. Most of us have wives, and most of us have sisters. And the person has soiled herself. We follow, and people pass snide remarks about it. But it is a natural thing without which we wouldn't have been born. So we need to support. When they said the children, once it is also said that for every extra year of a woman staying in school, the chance of their child living up to 5 years increases by 25%. For every extra year a woman stays in school till she's 15 years. Because the little things we take for granted, hand washing, proper hygiene, proper nutrition, we assume we are in school, oh, the syllabus, there's nothing in it. But the various things that we learn, it ends up impacting on us in a great way. So as an institution, these are some of the things that we are looking at supporting to make sure that these things, we have a proper impact on our society and we do the right thing. So we are going into this, we'll call it semi-final. Those of us who like football, this is our semi-final session. The 2 sessions are all taking place over here. First, we are going to have a short session where we are going to talk about engineering and innovation, where we will look at some of the things we can do differently to bring about a change. And I introduced our past president, Engineer Dr. Kwame Boakye, who was 25 years my senior in the school which has produced the majority of the heads of states in this country. No other school, I haven't mentioned it in it. Oh, both military and proper heads, civilian heads of states. We've produced everything. Some say we have run the country down. We say we have run the country up. And so we want to invite Engineer Dr. Kwame Boakye first to give us an overview of some of the innovative things we can do as engineers to change our society, to change our thinking. Then we have some panelists over here who will, together with him, discuss and come up with. we want to have an open session where people will come up with ideas. So to the panelists, before he comes, please, we don't want you to talk plenty. 3 minutes, 4 minutes. We've had the problem almost all our sessions. It's difficult for us to contribute. This is our last session. It's plenary. We want as many people to contribute as possible. So, Engineer Dr. Kwame Boakye, my senior.
Thank you. Good afternoon. After lunch, it's always a challenge, to wake people up from, maybe I have a few slides, which, if unfortunately I wasn't able to load them, yeah. You can load it. Oh, okay. Get me a flash. Okay. Yeah, I'm just going to throw out some thoughts for the panelists to look at. And some of the thoughts may be disjoint. But that's a part of innovation. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What I want to do is set a context for innovation. We talk of science, technology, how are they all related? So I'll say a word about that. Then where are the opportunities to innovate and what must we actually do? And hopefully the bulk of this will be the interactive exchange, following the other people. As a background, these are things that I've been saying for a very long time. That Ghana is going nowhere, without engineers, and therefore we as GHIE, we have a special, responsibility. And that many development problems are really engineering problems. I mean, when you have people falling sick because they don't drink, clean water, mosquitoes, all of those things, really on the surface they look like health problems, but fundamentally the engineering problems. And part of our challenge is to make policymakers recognize that at the base, these are engineering problems. And therefore, if you solve the engineering problems, you will solve the larger problems. For the amount of money that you will spend on pharmaceuticals far exceeds what you will spend on building the infrastructure to prevent the disease in the first place. No country ever developed without its own indigenous engineering innovation. And one of the key things is that there is an explosion and democratization of technology. And by that, what I mean is that every day that you wake up, there's a new technology. Some fancy stuff and so on. And all that would be interesting but not relevant, except for the single fact that many of these are taking the form for the beginner. So if you are starting, you actually do have an advantage in many of these technologies that are coming up. And in fact, many of the developed countries wish they were starting today, because then you won't have all this embedded base. Because once you build the base, then, of course, you put money into it, and you must have a return on that investment. So making a decision to move becomes extremely difficult. We have that advantage. They don't. And this is one of the things we need to, look at. And frankly, we are not the first to do these things. There are other models around that we can look at. The messages that I'd like to get across. One is that we must embrace science, technology, engineering. In fact, I've been having an ongoing debate with the Ministry of Environment Science that there should be Ministry of, at least, forget about the environment part, but science, technology, engineering, and innovation. In fact, a lot of innovation is actually related to engineering. And you'll see what I mean as I go on. And we need science, technology, engineering, innovation in order to achieve sustainable development. And frankly, we cannot continue as a nation if we do not find a way to achieve sustainable development. The other message I like to get across is that we have a lot of what I call individual excellence. There are individuals who are good, top of their fields. But when you look at us as a group, as a nation, we are not doing as well. And that's what I mean by individual excellence and group incompetence. Okay. Yeah. And frankly, one of our biggest challenges is how do we transform our individual excellence into group excellence? You have to build institutions and stuff like that. But really, at the high level, that's the problem that we need to focus on and solve. And, we need to utilize Ghanaian, excellence wherever it is, in the Ghanaian technology. We need to have a better interface with our diaspora, for example. We need institutions. And in fact, this morning, when we are at the energy session, when you heard of these institutions talking, they're excellent. The problem is, if the Burkina Faso issue, for a small amount of money, that could extend our lines to Burkina Faso and be making a lot of money, we don't seem to be able to find that money. We don't seem to be able to find that money. And yet, we find money for things that I personally don't consider, to be, So that's a challenge that we have. And as I said this morning, I think we as a group need to put pressure. Right now, in the long run, we need engineers everywhere. Our president must be an engineer, if this country is going to survive. Our president must be an engineer. And I say that unapologetically, And if you want a case in point, look at China. Look at China. At 1.7 out of their top 9 leaders were engineers. And look at the results that they have achieved. So there's something to be said for that. And I don't mean just being president, but we need engineers at the district assembly level. We need engineers in the legislature, the judiciary, everywhere. Because of the training of engineers. In fact, if we don't push into these environments, we are denying the country. So this is one of my pleas, particularly to the younger ones. As you look at your careers, think about being active in politics. And I don't mean party politics, And I don't really care whether you are MPP, NDC, XYZ, ABC. The key thing is you must be an engineer or an engineering practitioner, I should say. That is the most important thing. Again, because of your mindset, your approach to solving problems, and so on. So let us all go preaching to ourselves and to the rest of the world that if Ghana is going to go anywhere, we need many more engineering practitioners in various aspects of our life. Yeah. Now, what's the relationship between science, technology? No, this is my view. Science essentially is just a system for building and organizing knowledge in a form that is testable, very important, and can be used to make predictions about nature or the universe. Science is science. It does not have to be useful. It's inquiry. People are curious. You want to understand why something happens and so on, and there's nothing wrong with that. And as a matter of fact, somebody sat down and said, what is out there? Somebody may say, God exists there. Somebody said, no, maybe there's something, So let me go into space. It is that curiosity. Science brings in that curiosity. Typically, you would take the science, and then using the science, you will make some modifications. You prepare tools, basically. You develop tools, you develop machines, gadgets, techniques, and so on. That's what technology is about. The tools, development of the tools. And by the tools, I extend that to be concepts and so on and so forth. That's technology. What's engineering? If you are not solving a problem of interest to society, you are not doing engineering. So engineering uses all of these things and actually builds solutions of interest to society. And you have to use mathematical principles, and I think somebody was talking of whether you need maths or not. You do need maths. And the reason why you need maths is very simple, because a lot of things are modeling. You cannot go and measure every single one of them. So you have to have some abstraction. And that's what mathematics allows you to do. So it's very difficult to do efficient engineering without mathematics. Okay. And you have to use judgment. You have to use common sense, because if you go through the equations and they give you an answer which doesn't seem to make sense and you still push it, you're not doing engineering. You're doing something else. Okay? So it must satisfy common sense. And you have to be able to create, maintain, sustain, and it's got to be typically in an economical manner. Because ultimately, if you can't afford to do it, then it's not particularly useful. Okay? Now, what about innovation? Innovation really is achieved when technology and engineering are applied in a manner to add value. Okay? For example, if you have an existing process and you want to adapt it to local conditions, that's what innovation is. You don't just do it in a mechanical manner. You have to think about it, understand and this is where the spirit of innovation comes in. When people say, I'm thinking out of the box, that's what innovation is. Okay. So they are related. Science, technology, engineering, innovation, they're related but distinct. Now, one of the things that innovation, technology and innovation, I would like to draw to your attention, is being driven by this phenomenon. And this phenomenon is saying, what is a whole system today is a box tomorrow. The following day is a card in a box. Okay? The next day, it is a chip that goes onto the card. And that chip, then becomes a cell on a chip. Okay? And it becomes software, which then goes round and round and round. And the reason why we have all this microelectronic stuff and things changing, AI, go back to this. That's really what the basic phenomenon is. That what's a system today is a box tomorrow. The next day, it is a card. The next day, it is a chip. The next day, it's a cell on a chip. Then it goes into software, and then it becomes part of a larger, system. So when we are thinking of innovation, let us have this at the back of our minds. Okay. Let me go and come back. Okay. The other is think in terms of value when you are innovating. Okay. Typically, you have a set of capabilities, and you are trying to develop some solution. This is a typical engineering thing. But there are stages. Okay? In the stages, you can have core technology, and that core technology is put into some component, it is put into some system, and it is then put into some total solution. At each layer, there's an opportunity to innovate. Okay? Again, think of that way. The other thing, let me come back to some of the technologies that I spoke about. All kinds of new technologies, genetic engineering, closed ecological systems, body implants, robotics, unmanned vehicles, nanotechnology, special materials, 3D, wireless, oops, what did I do? Okay. Internet of Things. The list goes on and on and on, artificial intelligence. But as I said, the real thing is to understand the fundamentals and how is it that you can add value. Okay. There's no way you can keep track of all of this. But if you're able to get the fundamentals, then whatever you approach, you look at it that way and say, where are the areas that I can add value? Okay. Now, I'm borrowing some slides that we used. We had this conference on bridging the technology gap. And the whole idea was that in Ghana, particularly outside civil engineering, our engineering careers tend to be deficient because we don't have industry. When you are in civil engineering, basically, the industry exists when you get out of school. And you can practice, But if you are in mechanical engineering or electrical engineering, the places to get your training, most places when you get out of school, you don't have the hands-on, and it is impossible really for schools to do that. Because if they did that, probably by the time you get out, the technology would have changed and you would have become obsolete. Okay, so they have to have this balance and spend more time on trying to get you to master the fundamentals so you can apply those fundamentals to whatever situation that you have. But you still do need the practical experience. So the conference was, what do you do in that case? And that's what we call sort of bridging the technology gap. And I'll take a few concepts, from that. In fact, one of the things was to say that really we have both, a manufacturing gap, because the idea was that because we don't have manufacturing, therefore we don't have the opportunity for the electrical engineers, the mechanical engineers, maybe the chemical engineers to actually have, that practice. So that there is a gap to that. And part of the reason for that is when you trace our industrial history, fundamentally, the colonial days, they did not expect us to be in control of our own environment. So whatever they brought, even when they brought technology, they did it in such a way that you were not exposed to extending that technology. They taught you this and it ended there. Okay? So one of the things is to change a system like that so our people begin to have the capability to extend, some people call part of it reverse engineering. For example, the Chinese and the Koreans, they did a lot of reverse engineering. you know. Some people call it stealing, you know, but, you know, but everybody has been a thief at one point, you know, you know, you know. When you're a thief and you gain power, you know, then you become a philanthropist. So anyway, we have the innovation gap. And, you know, I won't go through the technology history. Yeah. The one thing that I would like to, is how do we close the technology gap? You know, there are 3 areas that one needs to look at. And one is you must build a national predisposition to innovate. You must have an environment that encourages innovation. If every time somebody comes and says, I want to do something different, you slap the person on the hand, over time, you're not going to have any innovation. Okay? So that is important. The second is a national design and manufacturing capability, because it is in there that you get the opportunity to apply many of these innovative ideas. One of our biggest problems in Ghana is that our manufacturing is almost extinct. You cannot. I mean, can you imagine paper, toilet paper? We have to bring from China. You know, I mean, it doesn't make any sense. And there was a time when we did all of those things. We did Casanoma, and if we had continued on that pace, we would be somewhere. And that's what you need to keep pushing, you know, your innovation envelope and building, you know, your national development. There's a third, which is also very, very important. And that's access to capital. Because many of your innovative ideas have to give rise to building solutions for customers or things that people can use. If it just stays in the lab, or if it stays within, you know, just discussion rooms, it's not going to grow. And that's one part that we have not paid enough attention to. It doesn't mean you must have a whole lot of money, but at least what it means is that instead of people always wanting to go and put their money into trading, we should develop a culture where somebody says, I want to support innovation. You know, things that may yield results in a few years' time. Okay? And in fact, there are people who can afford to do that. The problem is that we just don't have the right orientation. And as a matter of fact, it's so bad that many of the companies owned by Ghanaians, they usually die after the founder has passed on. Because we have not yet developed the culture of being able to sustain these things. The other thing is the Ministry of Environment, Science and Technology. They've also developed what they call the Ghana Innovation and Research Commercialization. And there are a few concepts which are good, as we think of innovation. And to them, the center will promote and support enhanced public researchers, academia, private sector collaborations in R&D, and so on. You need that. If people are doing research, if people are making discoveries, but somehow it does not get into industry, then industry is not going to grow. And then they cannot support research, because government can only do so much. As a matter of fact, government does not understand the market. It is only industry, people who are producing to sell, they are the ones who understand the market. And therefore, they tend to direct research in the right manner. So you need that linkage, very, very strongly. Then you need to build a strategic platform for engagement. Again, many of these concepts, they all come back to the same thing, And one of the things that we also need to develop very seriously is intellectual property. Right now, we don't really pay much attention. Just when you develop something, you don't protect it. Okay. So again, we need to, do that. And I see my junior out there waving his hand. So, And they've developed what they call strategic technology areas. You know, these are, in the opinion, these are the technologies which will help us, you know, better developed. And agriculture and food processing. If you can't feed yourself, you're not going to last very long, you know. In fact, I remember I spent some time with Arthur Lewis, who was the economic advisor to Nkrumah. You know, his daughter was my mate, you know, at Columbia, so I used to visit them. And he said he considers his biggest failure that he could not convince Nkrumah that food is important. You know, that agriculture, that any nation, no matter what you do, you must pay attention to agriculture. And he considered one of his biggest failures that he could not convince, you know, Nkrumah, because he was industrialize. You know. Anyway, so environment, waste management, I think we've heard enough about that today. The renewable energy, ICT. So these are some of the key areas of technology that, And I won't, you know, go on and on and on, but stop here for now. And I think during the discussion, I can answer questions. I can also give additional comments. Yeah, thank you for now. Who is it?
Thank you very much, Dr. Kwame Boakye. He said I was waving at him. Engineer Dr. Kwame Boakye. Over here, we don't drop the engineer. We always have to add it. So what we'd like to do at this time is to, well, you don't mind if you don't sit here. Yeah, so they can sit here and then talk, like the formal. You want to see their faces? Oh, today we haven't seen anybody's faces, and they are feeling intimidated. To your convenience. Okay, but before they come, Patrick's presentation is also a small PowerPoint. But okay, Patrick is my junior, so I'm going to sit on him. Dr. Kwame Boakye, I started waving him 15 minutes ago, and he now stopped. But as for him, I'll let him keep to time. So I'll sit here because I can stop you directly.
Thank you very much. Just a little thoughts on innovation in the built environment. I just want to share some thoughts with you and what has also happened over the period. Whether we like it or not, whether we decide not to innovate, whether we decide to stay, the world is moving on. And I use this, everybody, the buzzword is the fourth industrial revolution. And I'm sure yesterday we heard about that. But what has happened over the period? This is the industrial revolution, somewhere around the 1800. We've gone to the second industrial revolution, the third industrial revolution, and now we are in principle in the fourth industrial revolution. Where do we find ourselves as a country? Are we taking advantage of what is happening? And what is also leading this fourth industrial revolution? Most of them has been, and he talked about that, and the need to serve public interest. So whatever we are doing, what's happening? Yeah. But in coming to the built environment, for the past 50 years, we've not seen much change in the way we do things. He talked about the fact that, yes, civil engineering has developed and all those things, but we've not seen much in terms of using technology. Can we do something about it? How are we taking advantage of increase in the use of materials? For example, prefabrication and modular construction. The issue about advancement in building materials, are we taking advantage of it? These are things that, whether we like it or not, if we don't find ways and means of innovating, it will catch up with us. The third is, we've all also heard about 3D printing, automotive construction, augmented reality, and these are all issues that I believe you've heard about and you'll be battling with as we go forward in the next 30, next 50 years. And I brought this up, so what do we do? The question is, what do we do? This, whether we decide not to change our university education, the way we are taught, the way we innovate, these things are, innovation is going on, technology is advancing, so what do we do? First of all, we need to start rethinking the way we do things in advancement. So we need to think systems, Engineer Dr. Kwame Boakye talk about. We need to look at the way we empower, empowering, not determining. We also need to look at the way we do designs, again, in a different way, and we need to add value to whatever we are doing. Then we need to look at attracting new talents. And these are the kind of set skills, I'll not go on with that, the kind of set skills that we need to be more innovative. Issues of critical thinking now becomes very important in the next generation that we are talking about. We need to integrate and collaborate across industry, especially within the construction industry, and also be able to adapt advanced technology, and also maximize the use of data and digital model throughout our processes. So these are just some few thoughts that I wanted to share. Thank you very much.
So we had Engineer Dr. Kwame Boakye speaking first. Then we had Engineer Dr. Patrick Bequem speaking. Now we want to invite Engineer Dr. Celestina Alote and Engineer Dr. Bertha Date also to come up and take their place up there. I was wondering, I just realized that everybody's Engineer Doctor. You know what I like is that I was told that PhD stands for permanent head damage, so. Permanent head damage. Dr. Kwame Boakye is not included. He can punish me. The rest, though they are doctor, they were all my juniors in school, so I can feel. There was one representative from Nigeria. Unfortunately, I've lost the name, who is supposed to be on the panel. I can't remember who it is. So we had one representative from Omo, Niger. Oh, the person is not here. Okay. I can't, if I saw the face, I'll remember, but I can't see the face and I can't remember the. You can use the podium if you want. Okay, all right then.